Hi there. You read it right. The new MacBook 12 on the M5 processor. It's like that. Read it correctly, but misunderstood, because yes, indeed, this is a new MacBook 12. I have two of them at all. I have already printed this one is still sealed. And indeed, it is on the M5 processor. Just not Apple M5, but Intel M5. This is the same MacBook that got all the advanced technologies, including a new generation keyboard, magnetic trackpad, Tipsy, record thickness and weight. A MacBook that wasn't just ahead of its time. A MacBook that came back from the past. We have already made a detailed video about Mac about 2000 of the 13th year, and even 10 years later, he can do something. All these things were done under Johnny Ivy. The link to the video, if anything, will be in the description. But the purpose of this video is to tell about how the MacBook 12 feels almost 10 years later. Because it has been in the box since 2016 year, and it is still the thinnest MacBook and the lightest. It weighs 920 grams. The thickness is 0.35 millimeters of its thinnest part, and 1 3 centimeters in the thickest. Yes, the new MacBook Air on M2 M3 is only 113 millimeters thick, but it's not a wedge-shaped design here. And indeed, now in the 24th year, when you take this MacBook 12 in your hands, you are amazed at how thin and light it is. The Apple has not done anything like this so far. Once again, I have two of them. I unpacked it, but I had to prepare somehow, so that I could test it and so on. Why did I start this? I found an old MacBook sealed, for sure it cost more, and it cost more than any Bushnell options. And I went on vacation to my beloved St. Petersburg or flew by plane. I don't plan to do editing or photography at this moment, but I need a good laptop with a good keyboard, so that it is as compact as possible and at the same time with a normal screen. Well, then why not a MacBook 12? A brilliant plan. Well, okay, you can take a MacBook Air 4 M3 or M2, but it's boring, it's simple. In addition, there is no screen at 120 Hz. In the Proshka, I have a screen of 120 Hz, and it is beautiful to everyone. But how did I get sick of him weighing so much, and there's still a lot of different crap with him. These are headphones, these are now some kind of smart glasses, this is a power bank. Well, in general, you still have a lot of space in your briefcase, but you want a laptop with a compact iPad Pro on M4, but the option is 11 inches, but again I need a keyboard. Because I like to write from the computer, not from the phone. It's faster, more convenient, the screen is large. And if you take the keyboard to the iPad, even to the 11th, but it already weighs there at the level or even more than Air. And what's the point then? Well, I have recently become a fan of mini tablets, I really like them. Lenovo iPad mini, which has not been updated for a long time, is very convenient. But there is no keyboard there. And what could I do but not go crazy and buy a MacBook 12? So I did. In addition, here we are, and this is the second reason, adding native support for Windows. Well, you can put the 11th, although I put a 10. As a legal entity, I sometimes need Windows. And this is a great feature. And the third reason, some of you probably haven't bought a MacBook yet, wants to switch, and thinks, what would I like to buy the very first one for 30,000 so and so? Yes, a Boyshko costs about that much. I'm not saying that this is an ideal purchase that will justify itself, we're going to look at that right now. But this is the same MacBook, already ancient, which was ahead of time. Well, according to our integration plan, after that we will continue about the most interesting things. The annual autumn flow of presentations begins. New smartphones, new iPhones. And the old people leave according to the ads on Avito. We take photos, post ads, communicate with customers, bargain. Well, you know how Avito works, it's not for me to explain to you. The scheme has been worked out for years. But there is a new scheme, simpler and faster. The ransom from Avito. This service will help you sell your smartphone without problems, and in just 24 hours. And there is no need to worry about chips, scratches, or any small shoals. Such devices are also accepted. Everything is super simple. Fill out an application with smartphone data. Here you will immediately be shown a preliminary price. Then Avito's partner contacts you, arrange a meeting when and where it is convenient for you. A specialist comes to you, examines the device and calls the amount of the ransom. If it's okay for you, you sell it. Neither okay, do not sell. They will not charge you for the assessment in any case. I think it's perfect. So if you want to sell your smartphone quickly and without strain, use the buyout from Avito. I'll leave the link in the description. Try it yourself. So, well, I've already told half of the important information. The MacBook is still not unpacked. So, once again I will note what a thin and pleasant reptile he is. And also, what I forgot to say, this is the first MacBook that has a new keyboard mechanism called a butterfly. He came to replace the classic scissors mechanism, to which he eventually applied. Then they returned there a few years later, because, yes, it stuck, dust got there, and so on. Problems are problems, of course, but typing on such a keyboard is not just pleasant. This is the best keyboard in the history of mankind, I have to tell you. And now the problem is easily solved with the help of such a solid silicone lining. It is bought on AliExpress, put on the keyboard, and that's it. You don't get dust, nothing sticks. You're typing with a buzz. Moreover, you can also order glass, and the screen is small, as it was pasted on an iPad, your screen is also protected. Cool. In addition, even then the MacBook 12 received a magnetic trackpad, which is no different from modern trackpads. Including the newest MacBook Pro or Air, tactile keyboard and trackpad give incredible sensations. Okay, I've already moved on to the review, but I want to reveal the purpose of our visit 10 years ago. What is all this for anyway? I have already mentioned 3 reasons, but there is another one. I bought 2 MacBooks in different colors, but firstly, I was sure that at least one of them would die in the battery. So just in case we changed the battery, and secondly, I thought about upgrading these MacBooks to the maximum versions right away. But this is the most beautiful thing, because inside we have an Intel M5 2016 year. In general, MacBooks were produced here these 12, from 2015 to 2019. And there were 3 versions, 3 generations. They differed in processors and graphics this time. The speed and versions of the SD, because the version of the 17th year was stuck with NVMe, and before that, there were PCI Express up to 5 gigabits and 3.0 up to 8 gigabits. They also differed in Bluetooth versions, 4.0 or 4.2. This is the third one. There was also a difference in the image output, the battery. Well, Macus, then another OS 10. Not everyone got Ventura. And finally, the butterfly keyboard. For the version of 2000 of the 17th year, it was improved, or rather it would be more accurate to say protected from dust. It has become less sticky. What processor versions were there? Broadway is the 5th generation, Core M at 1 and 1 GHz, 1 and 2 and 1 and 3. All are dual-core, with a boost and 14 nanometer. In the 2016, the processors M3, M5 and 7 were already released. This is Skylake, the 6th generation, the same 2 cores, 14 nanometers, and boost. This is exactly the processor I have, namely M5 6 in 54. Here, the frequency was raised and the graphics were upgraded. If there is an Intel HD 5300 graph in Ford, then here is an HD graph 515. And finally, in the 2017 year, the new M3 was already shown, and the Bark AI5 and AI7 came to replace the M5 and 7, but still dual-core, Kaby Lake, the 7th generation with graphics 615, and with a boost as much as 3 and 6 GHz in the maximum version. Graphics, of course, integrated, improved from generation to generation, but always dynamically used the main RAM. I mean, you understand, right? Already at that time, there were moves towards a unified memory. Now, RAM and memory for graphics are the same thing. Well, here's about the same story. Which of these versions should I buy if I watch Boyshka? Definitely only 2017 year. It's stupidly fresher, there's already a normal keyboard, and normally working prots. It is important to note that I have a version of the 16th year, and when I turned it on the Intel M5 processor, I was fucked up by how much the computer slows down, it is impossible to use it. Another such moment. Version 2000 of the 15th year is outdated. That is, the Apple has recognized it as outdated and does not support it in any way. The version of the 2016 year is recognized as vintage. That is, there are spare parts, but if there are none, you can't get any questions to the Apple. And finally, the version of 2000 of the 17th year is still relevant. But together with the previous version of the 16th year, it no longer receives an update. Well, that is, Ventura is the last one here, and then there are security updates. But you don't need these updates. But it is possible to repair the version of the 17th year officially, where there is an Apple. Only if you take it, do not be guided by the model name on the back cover, but 1534. It will be like this for all 3 generations. That is, it is necessary to climb into the computer, see what year it is. Well, look at the colors, because the versions of the 15th year were silver, space gray, and gold. In the versions of the 16th, 17th year, the rose gold color appeared, like this one. By the way, it's a fucking color. It looks amazing. Well, there are nuances here. The version of the 17th year was released until the 19th year, but in the 2018th year, Apple removed the color rose gold from the line. What did I do next? Then I went to the guys from Bigik. By the way, many thanks to them for finding 2 sealed new MacBooks. And this is very difficult to do now, believe me. I looked at eBay there. Well, there are 1 or 2 models in the USA, in Germany, and that's it. In general, we found new sealed MacBooks. Bought them. Guys, I'll leave a link to them in the description. Thank you very much. They advised me to go further to other dudes from the ICE support team who are engaged in repairing Apple equipment. I say, so guys, here are the MacBooks for you. What can we do with them? They say, well, we can upgrade them. I say, come on. If anything, WISE support, you can apply for repair of Apple equipment. The guys helped us a lot too. Well, I say, look at the sign. Let's stick 7 memory and more RAM into my MacBook AI. Because by default, there were only 8 gigs of RAM in the 12th Mac, and only in the version of the 17th year. It became possible to make a customization for 16 gigs, but there was also a change in memory speed. But it's not that significant anymore. Permanent memory is 256 or 512 gigabytes of the PIA Express format. Initially, I had such an idea. I buy a board, I find it, we put the SAI7 version here, cut down this schnick, add 1 or 2 terabytes. With RAM, if possible, we do the same. To which the answer was received that even if I find some kind of board from the old firmware of the same years, we cut down the SD. The new one will fit according to the contact database, but still the computer will not read it, because in each NAND chip, there is a so-called A-bit section, where information is written about can this NAND chip work with a specific MacBook. That is, if the MacBook 12 was not released on a version of 1 or 2 terabytes, then it just won't work. To put so much memory there. It is soldered, so the Apple was already defended from all sides at that time. The operational situation is a little different, but in general the same situation. That is, you won't put more than 16 here. So what did the guys from ICE support do? AliExpress, and I ordered a board for Bark 7, 512 SDs, and 16 gigs of operational 2000 of the 17th year, the latest. Installed, replaced the battery, everything as you can see, started up, everything works without any problems at all. That is, it is a copy of the 16th year, but the insides are from the 17th year. And moreover, we glued the entire motherboard with thermal pads, there are no fans here, and thus saved 3 dashes of 5 degrees. They checked before and after through Mac fan control. Here, I probably need to add how much it all cost. It all cost a lot, because a new sealed MacBook each cost 50,000 rubles. And the fee of SAI7 cost 25 to 30,000 rubles. Well, and therefore the work, how much Thai support takes. I do not urge you to do this in any case, because the versions on AI7 Boishki are sold there in the region of 30 dashes, of 40,000 rubles, depending on the condition. That is, it's easier to buy a boo right away and not worry. That is, this MacBook, if you're here, it costs you 100,000 rubles there. It's definitely not worth the money. But 30 or 40,000 rubles for address AI7 is certainly worth it. And the first conclusion we make is, if we buy a Mac, then only on AI7, and with 16 gigs of RAM, so that it is convenient to work. Now let's look at the tests that we conducted on Bixer. I'll explain why later. There will even be games. I don't even know what to compare it with. In the CPU and CUE, the MacBook 12 loses with a bang with the new Air on M1, M2, M3. But miracles were not expected here. Nevertheless, we are assembling a typewriter, including 4 films. If you do not compare silicone with the Apple, then the laptop shows in the Geekbench the results of the level of the MacBook Pro 13 of the 17th year on the AI5 of the 7th generation. I barely dragged the laptop into the blue bench. It takes him half an hour to prepare for the test alone. SDs in general are very good, but obviously they are inferior to the new ones by 2.5 times in speed. But again, what do you particularly throw at him? You won't be able to mount video clips on this anyway. Well, forget about the Blender at all, it's 4 to 5 times longer than modern laptops. So, purely for show, they were driven away. The picture, I think, is clear, but in total, the performance for its size and format is very cheerful. The heating here cannot be called Soviet, because it turns out to be 44 or 47 degrees on the bottom lid. But again, we loaded it with benchmarks here. In light tasks it heats up anyway, you still feel it. But you won't set your knees on fire. That is, you can use it. Although MacBooks on M1 will definitely be colder. It remains to add here that Windows 10 gets up without problems. By chance, I rolled a version cleaned of feces, and quite ingeniously I can work here in one with, and with a contour. And some beggars can even play games. The same Heroes 3 HD edition, please. Well, or a counter, why not? By the way, 1 and 6 answers work there normally. And the most exciting thing is that this is not a virtual machine, but a natively installed Windows in a neighboring partition, through a boot camp. Brilliant. I didn't bother with games, after all, there is no MacBook 12 for this, but we launched a couple to the table. Here are the FPS indicators. Cleanly break in to rest at 1 and 6 on a typewriter that would not. 60 frames comes out, and even finishes up to 80 on full HD it. but something heavier and the laptop will already be difficult. The source produces an average of 40 frames, although objectively there is not the easiest engine to pull, also in full HD resolution. Doom, of course, even on HD resolution at low settings, it barely goes, on average 20 FPS is not playable. But here there are no questions at all and claims for the thinnest, not the lightest laptop, which is not created for games. But you can still play some Turkey. That's all with the tests. I continue to talk about the hardware. Wi-Fi is everywhere in the 5th version. Bluetooth has already said 4.0 or 4 and 2. But more importantly, these are connectors. There are not many of them in such a baby, as you understand. Only one Tipsy version 3, 1 Gen 1, 5 gigabit, which became one of the reasons for the low popularity of the MacBook 12. One port for everything. For connecting charging, flash, disks, card readers, peripherals, for image output in the end. That's when these endless adapters and splitters appeared. And of course, in the 2015 year, the world was not ready for this. One port. And in 2024, of course, it's still not enough. That is, at least to Tipsy would already be good. But in general, the 5th point does not burn so much. In addition to the Tipsy, we have an addition in the form of a mini jack, 3.5mm. A nice addition. What's left to talk about? Usage experience. And here it is very important to understand which version of Mix is best suited for work. And to do this, first let's look at the list of versions of Mix that were available. But here everything is obvious. Each subsequent model is supported for a year longer. The first two came out when MacOS was still called OS X. How long ago was that? 10. But even then, check out the support period of what? 7 years on the device. This is of course very cool. So, it seems to me, no one can even now. They also continue to release security patches for the last two. I tried Mac on 3 OSes. The first Catalina works just fine. Everything is flying, everything is cool. But the whole system itself is already outdated. It's 2000 of the 19th year, it looks like a skeuomorphism in the 24th. Well, to be honest, it's already a little too fast. Expired certificates, no 4K support on YouTube. And VK, by the way, did not check, there is support. Now it's more relevant. Well, in short, it works fast, but it's unrealistic to use it there and the site doesn't open half of it. Well, I think it's good. I'll pump up what's last available. Ventura, in fact what? The previous Mac use, is put on the version of the 17th year calmly, put it and cried, because now from 4 to on YouTube. It is already sick. Well, that is, everything opens there for a very long time. It is impossible to use, even on AI7. I can't imagine what's on the AI5 or M5 processor. Well, M5 will not support Ventura. Well, in short, you understand. Well, the golden mean is Bixer. So it looks modern on it, and there are all certificates, and 4K on YouTube does not slow down. This is what you can use. There are 4Ks on YouTube that are not particularly needed, let's face it. I'm just using it as a benchmark. Next, screen and sound. With a screen of complexity in the sense that it is a beautiful retina. Retina with a resolution of 2304 by 1440 pixels. Brightness in the region of 340. There is no HDR support, only 61% of the coverage according to adoption. But it's still a good matrix for 2024. The screen has another problem, the frames are too thick. There's nothing you can do here, just get used to it. Don't tear out your eye, but it's not like I'm screaming for joy either. Movies and videos are still more than enough to watch. And the matrix itself is much better in quality than what is being put into Chinese tablets and even laptops now. As for the webcam, it is located on top of the screen in this already thick frame. That's 480 pi. The quality is of course, well, the hat, what can I say, the laptop is old, although the ear on the M3 is new. With its 720 pi has not gone far, how many years have they been using this camera for it? Yes, it's worse here, by the way, evaluate the quality of the microphones at the same time, but 4 calls it will just do. Sound from the speakers. The speaker is on top, here it's suddenly not bad either. That's how in a hotel you put a 2-year-old on your belly, you watch movies. I repeat once again that the sound here will be better than many Windows laptops that are being released now. Yes, the bass is a little lacking, but for such a crumb it's straight in general. Well, just surprised. Now let's talk about autonomy. This is the most interesting thing. These are not Apple M processors, these are Intel. And here it is. Well, it's not all that cool. If you watch 4K videos in Safari at full brightness, then a laptop will be enough for 2.5 hours. MacBook Air on M1 in the same case will give 5 hours, on M3 even more. But if you print documents, just climb the sites, then yes, this MacBook will last 12 hours for 5. But on the whole, it is disappointing. Well, and the actual conclusions. We'll start with the cons. Definitely not the best autonomy, but still. All the same, compared even with modern Windows laptops, it will go on Intel. There is no Touch ID, you will have to enter the password the old-fashioned way. The frames are still too big for the screen, and the computer will heat up and set fire to your knees. But this is only if you want ultraviolence in the form of some kind of video access or the use of Photoshop. In other cases, it is good. Pros: good sound, just a great keyboard, an amazing trackpad, and, of course, its compactness. That's what he's a reptile, bribes. And things that can be attributed neither to the minuses nor to the pluses of either fish or meat. It's probably a screen. Well, it's just normal, you can use it. It turns out that if you wanted a compact MacBook for yourself and on a trip, then a MacBook 12 is not an ideal option. But it is an option that can be considered. If you wanted your first MacBook as an experience of using MacUs, and this is also a good option. Again, not perfect. I would probably still rather save up a little more money and buy the M1 version just to get a productive, cool, long-playing laptop. But there's still something in this Mac. For sure, this one will suit someone more and will cost much cheaper. So look what's on sale among the Bushkas. If someone wants, then yes, but only the version for AI 7 and 16 gigs of RAM. All the others should not be considered even close. And the Mac itself, of course, is very cool. Even if you take it for yourself now, it will be difficult for you to switch to more modern models later, because they will all be heavier and thicker. And this, of course, is the merit of Johnny Ive. We are waiting for something similar from the Apple in the near future. Right now, the line lacks such a MacBook. It's cool, it's lightweight and compact. Such a story.